locations in our case is pretty complex. It's about 30 locations, out of which 8 are in India and the rest are overseas, global, including mobile users. And last year when we had done the first implementation in the client server mode, it had taken us total about 2.5 months at all locations put together. And still we were not sure sometimes whether the patches used to be updated or not. But now with this model over the last 6 months, we are seeing roughly about 20% of the effort is what has gone in now. So there's been a substantial saving of time, effort. With the same number of people, we have a very small, compact team for internal security. We manage it internally right now. And thus we were able to do this. Another good example that Nilofer pointed out is precisely what we had done was host our messaging services on the cloud. And we had also earlier this issue of licensing, software which was in semi-compliance mode. And recently we took this initiative in terms of a client customer, and we took the services of one of the messaging service providers, and the entire messaging solution has gone on board now. Security was a concern for us also because initially to convince the management, the users that now all this will be hosted elsewhere and this is how we are going to use it. I think with a lot of education, our own education first of all, we had to understand how this thing works before we made others understand and then convince the management. We are also family owned business, so the initial issues were there. But I think somehow we were able to convince and take this through. Coming to yesterday's session, a few things came up. Why we should adopt these technologies, the speakers before me have elaborated very well. I think the key things that we need to look at as CIOs, as IT heads, as CTOs is agility, adaptability, flexibility, having infrastructure which is scalable, and then smart. Smart, I had given this phrase to my team last year when we had this economic contraction, and we were wondering, what kind of projects we should take, which are not high investment oriented, but which bring good results to the organization. So we coined this word. We said we'll have smart infrastructure in the organization and smart initiatives. So SMART stands for simple, one of the things that came in the presentation, measurable, achievable, realistic, and target oriented. So look at a target, see what we want to achieve, and then work in small, in other words, with baby steps. Take it step by step. And that's how we can do this. I was reading Information Week last, about Wednesday or Thursday, and the editor, Mr. Bob Evans, has sent an open letter to Randy Mott, the CIO of HP, and speaking of him. And he has requested Randy that, why don't you help users or the user CIOs to come over this 80-20 crisis. 80% of the initiative, 80% of the cost going into maintenance, and 20% of the investments going into new initiatives. I think you should all read that. I forward this to Anuradha also, so that maybe sometimes you can have a look at it. It's all available on the web. And these are the kind of things which really open your eyes and see that not only in the US, but at least in India and this region also, we can all do our own small bit of making our infrastructure smart, reliable, simple, take small steps in doing things which are showing results, and they don't mean any investment. For us, migrating to the cloud service for the security services meant zero investment. Since we were already in the license mode, we didn't have to spend anything. In fact, we saved on infrastructure. Out of the at least 9 servers that we had, which were pulling the software from different locations and then pushing it to another 20 locations downward, we saved, I think, almost about 40% of the equipment, which I could use elsewhere for other POCs or for other smaller applications. So with that, I would like to end my discussion. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Since we have not yet actually gone with all cloud computing, it's absolutely a great area for us. It's for the cost aspect. So that is an aspect that is somehow not really covered. Based on experience of those who have already actually gone for cloud computing in various areas, what has been the general? Because we all understand that flexibility is there, yes, scalability, these are things which are given. But from the cost angle, because I have been in the Gartner presentation there, said that yes, the cost will be much higher. So do pay that. But we don't have any need of this. That's the question.
For each of our customers when we do a TCO over the 3-year period. So and this is IT management software that I'm talking about, and I think there would be slightly different metrics if you look at the various software that's consumed over the cloud, or if you're looking at other cloud solutions, also infrastructure as a service or platform as a service.
No, what is the applications which they have been using actually? I mean, is it applications or security or infrastructure?
Overall savings was distributed between infrastructure and operations, basically. You're going to save on the servers that you would actually invest in if you set up the environment within your company, and then you're also going to save on the ongoing management of that environment.
And do you have any take on applications like Salesforce.com and all that? What's the saving there?
Yeah, I would expect that it would be similar statistics, but somewhere between 20 to 40% if you're comparing it to an in-house deployment.
I have a sorry, if I may just add to that point, what Vinita said. So there are two distinct areas of savings. One is infrastructure, what you have currently, because you would be using a lot more from that infrastructure, and the cost needed to deploy them better, I don't think it's really too much, because you really have a lot of open source alternatives today to get that virtualization piece going. Second thing, like what she said, is your operating expenses, and we've seen customers save significantly not only on management, on space, on power. So there is a huge amount of saving which goes about. I'm sure all the people sitting over here can talk about multiple examples on operating expense savings for organizations.
So just give me a minute. Puneet, you wanted to say something?
Platform as a service and software as a service. I would definitely ask in terms of hardware as a service, which is being put across by EC2 and Amazon today. So would the panel throw some more insight into hardware as a service? Although it's been extracted from infrastructure as a service, but how come it has collectively become as a different service altogether, which is being evaluated today?
Dan, you want to go with that?
Yeah.
So, Puneet. You can use this mic.
Okay, our view of that is, like what I said earlier, also, to a certain extent answer the question asked earlier. We see the path of going to cloud. Actually, we don't see a lot here being implemented, but being talked about. But we see a lot. I cited two examples earlier. One is Salesforce.com, the other is Google. In fact, Salesforce.com, this is their model. This is their business model. They have to go with it. Otherwise, they don't have a business at all. To answer straight to your question is the path that I mentioned earlier: standardize, virtualize, and then you go into cloud. For standardize, I can use another term called rationalize. So I don't know whether you are using proprietary systems or like open system or whatever, and whether you are doing virtualization. By doing these, essentially you are maximizing the utilization of your hardware capability. That is pertinent to you if you're going to implement something called what we call a private cloud. For a public cloud is now you have a bunch of customers or users all over the market. So you have the opportunity, to support this number of hardware, but to make it available or serviceable to a lot of end users. So that's how I probably will see hardware as a services. In fact, we call it infrastructure as a services, like what HP or Sun said it, and in Dell we have infrastructure as services, software as a services, as well as platform as a services. So infrastructure is not just limited to the hardware, for example, the server or storage, but the others. The key essence is if you can combine them together, maximize the utilization of these investment for a huge group of customers, you see the benefit. You will see the benefit.
Thank you, Douglas. I'm going to stop. We're going to